My name is Damon Hicks. I am a young father, author, and entrepreneur. Everything that I do is for my baby girls.
Yeah, man. So it's really been a long time coming for this one for real. Because I see the way that the mom be moving within the community. I see the impact. I see, the value, and I think what's the coolest thing about the whole situation is like I see a lot of myself within you, in terms of how you move. Like you're truly, one of those empowering leaders that has the, what it takes to really change generations, not just for your family, but for the family of others, So that was something that I definitely saw, and, Van knows, even before we even really start connecting, like I would see you and how you moving on social media, and I was just like, yeah, I gotta get them around more, like for real, because it was like a group of like the guys that were a little bit younger than me, like you, Tyrus, Jamal, Nate, like all of I was inspired by the way that y'all were moving, you know what I mean? So I started just, reaching out, sending y'all invites to events and stuff like that. And then once y'all started getting into my spaces, it's like, then I really felt the energy. And it's like the energy and the synergy. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely meant to do something with these brothers. So I'm definitely going to continue to, be like the best source of inspiration I can be to y'all. So then y'all can reciprocate that to me, and it's like we be in a reflection of each other. So it's really been dope, bro.
And I appreciate you, because sometimes I just text you with questions, and you don't only just send me a response, but you always send me like a paragraph full of just explaining it and breaking it down, and I really appreciate that. And I be needing that most times. And I appreciate you even sending me a message when I was down, dealing with my depression, anxiety, and things. You as well, and that really meant a lot. And it mean a lot for you to say all those kind words, because definitely I think we need to hear that in this generation. And I'm inspired by you. Like I always say, it's like, it's cool. I actually know a person that owned a gym. Like, that's so dope to me.
Yeah.
And most people can't say that. Like, I know I own it. Like, I'll be bragging on you sometimes. Well, yeah, man, I know that. But yeah, man, I appreciate that.
But yeah, we have to affirm each other, because like I think it was last year in August when I went down to Invest Fest, and I essentially got to see all of those people who I look up to on the stage and stuff like that. And the coolest thing about that experience is I saw I was like, that's me. They're doing no different of what I'm doing for my community. Absolutely. They just haven't stopped. They kept going, and they built that up to that level. And there's a group of individuals here in Indianapolis, you being included with that are doing these extraordinary things. And, we're going to face the same type of battles, because ultimately what we doing, it is God's work. You know what I mean? And I sent you the question that one day, and I was like, do you think that you're a leader or a shepherd? Because like Eric Thomas broke it down, like there's a difference between that. And when I think of a shepherd, like a shepherd is somebody who, not only like leads and builds up the community, but also a shepherd is somebody who, leads the leaders. They provide the inspiration for those individuals who also have their own communities, bro. So it's just like, it's so important for us to let each other know that it's like, hey brother, keep going, because we're gonna, just like those people that are on those stages speaking to thousands of people, we already have that claim. That's already part of our story. Yeah. We just have to go through those struggles and adversities in order to be able to get there, and I have to pick you up in times where I see you low, like, or going through depression, because I know that I go through depression. Oh, yeah, I know that that's a serious thing, and I know that I be in my head, and, manipulation is one of the strongest sources the devil uses in order to control us. So when we be having those thoughts of depression, where we be having those, just any type of negative thought, like I had a thought of suicide, like I told you, come across my head. And I knew that wasn't my thought. Right. You know what I mean? I knew that was the devil trying to get to me, because he sees that I'm breaking through that threshold. Because at the end of the day, God made this dominion and this dimension that we live in for humans. He's like, I give this to you. You know what I mean? So God, like everything that has been created here, this evil is human. and God works through us, and we are the vehicles in order to be able to deliver it. So, like what I see you doing, it's very serious. You know what I mean? So like whatever I have to do, like I'm gonna be there for support. You know what I mean? I want to be a part of the process any way I can. And as black men, that's how we gotta be in order to be able to change that narrative. You know.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, you're right though, and that's my goal. You know, just to motivate the young people in my generation, not young, but just people in general through my actions that I'm taking. I remember I was telling a friend of mine, like, man, I don't think I can be a motivational speaker. He was like, man, you already doing the work. It's the same thing as you taking action. You're just speaking about the things that you're actually doing. I was like, man, I appreciate that.
Yeah, 100%. So what we getting into today, Ben?
I just want to first say that it is so important and powerful for black men to talk to each other like this, especially on an emotional level. Anything like more than surface, really on an emotional level, because y'all can see each other as a reflection, because the black man's journey is different than anybody else's, because the whole world put y'all so down, and y'all got to be the ones to lift each other up, seeing each other as that. But today, we going to be discussing the hiatus you went on.
The hiatus, yes.
Because I really want to know what even forced you to take that hiatus.
Yeah, so really what forced me into the hiatus was this mindset of grind, no sleep, be there, do it.
Yep.
And I feel like in our generation, we get caught up into that. Oh, you ain't got to sleep, you can sleep later. No, sleep is important. Recovery is important. And social media make it seem like business or being just on the go is a good thing or great thing, or you doing your thing because you got motion. But no, it's really about being strategic, making sure you having your self time. And I forgot all of that. I wanted to be everywhere at once. And I was really running myself down, and really I felt like a hamster on the wheel. So that's what really got me into that. And then also, one of my daughters was like, I was telling her one day that, I'm doing this so we can be good in the future, so we can be rich. And one day she told me like, Dad, I don't care about us being rich. Like, I want to spend time with our family. Like, I want to spend. And I was kind of heartbroken.
And how old is she?
She's 6.
Wow.
Yeah, I was kind of
wow.
Dang. And so that's what really made me go into the hiatus as well, is to get back to the drawing board and really figure out what it is that I want, spend time with my daughters, fast from everything, sex, liquor, some people. Social media was the biggest one that I wanted to, because I love social media.
Yep.
So, and that was actually one of the hardest things as well, the social media. And that's what really put me into the hiatus, is just overwhelming. I dreamed myself out where I couldn't even think about the creative things that I always come up with. I couldn't even think straight. And so I remember right before my hiatus, I actually came to y'all event. And it really prepared me. Man, it did something to me.
That was perfect.
That was perfect.
Yeah, it definitely was perfect. Like meditation, getting spiritual food. You had speakers. It was a beautiful way to go into and that was my last event, because I wasn't going on no events. That was another thing. No events, no podcasts, no business, none of that. The goal was really just calm my mind, my spirit, spend time with my daughters, go back to the drawing board and figure out what it is that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what did that experience look like? Because I know for a fact, I went through an experience like that where I kind of went on a hiatus. It was just like, it wasn't even intentional. Honestly, it was just like I was put into the situation, and I was not used to being in solitude. I was used to doing. I was used to being so much in the mix. As somebody who is very active, how was that for you to just be within that solitude?
Ooh, I say the first 2 weeks was very challenging, because I had to sit with myself and not distract myself from all of the things that I distract myself from. 19 Keys said that most people are afraid of their own thoughts, so they distract themselves on cell phones or whatnot. And so in the book, The Hiatus, one of my favorite chapters is called Healing Conversations. And Mother I Sober. And Mother I Sober was Kendrick Lamar's song where you talk about being sober and feeling all those emotions. Yeah. So during the hiatus, not drinking liquor and not being on social media, I was just caught with my own thoughts. And I had to face my own demons, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was a difficult time, and it was weird, because the first 2 weeks of me writing and stuff, I wasn't intentionally writing the Hiatus book. I was just writing in a journal, and that was one thing that I would tell people to do is literally write out your thoughts. And so doing that, I wrote out my thoughts, and just taking all that feelings in, just put me it made me be in real life. Just made me be in the moment more. And I think people should do that. Just write out their feelings, and not only that, say them out loud. I have a chapter in the book called I Cried, and after I had read what I wrote down out loud, tears going down, and it was, I kind of felt embarrassed. I was reading it to a friend, so I hung up with the phone, and I had to like just sit with myself to feel all those emotions and understand why I'm feeling this way. And I definitely understood why I was feeling that way. Because again, we run from our own thoughts, being on social media so much. Yeah, definitely.
Would you say that social media had a big effect, not on only on your thoughts, but your need to perform, your need to be doing something all the time?
I say social media for me was more so, and I think for a lot of people, we play the comparing game. And to me, I think everybody does it. It's you can't help it. You know, you see somebody your age with a Lamborghini that's 25, you automatically think, hey, what are you doing differently than me?
Yeah.
You know, so playing those games, just getting up and getting on social media, I think that plays an effect on people as well, because you got to think, if you get on Facebook, somebody died. Oh, positive affirmation. Oh, somebody got married. Oh, somebody died. It's like your feelings is going up and down, looking at all this. So the day ain't even started, and you already got all these emotions that's in your mind. And so I think during my hiatus, not waking up to that, but being conditioned to doing that, so I wake up and be ready to click that, and I'm like, I'm not on social media.
Yeah.
So what positive, you got rid of a lot of negative or a lot of habits that you were used to doing on your hiatus. So I know you were journaling, but what other habits were you doing when you were going through those moments where you couldn't go to your phone, or you couldn't go to these events, or rely on work?
Yeah, so I would really sit with myself most times, listen to music, and really meditate. And one thing I would say was a benefit was my thoughts was clear. Like, my thoughts was my own thoughts. One thing I didn't want to do was read books or listen to podcasts either, because I really wanted all my thoughts to be my own thoughts.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And so I think that was a benefit to where I could really be strategic about what it is that I wanted to do moving forward, and what I felt like my purpose was. And I feel like my purpose is to inspire other young people, you know? And I think the reason it's so beautiful for me, because I've done things that didn't work.
Right.
And I did it in front of the world, quote unquote, social media. And so I tell people, you know, I want to teach people how to be fearless. Just go for it, you know?
Right.
Nothing's perfect, and everybody started at some point at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think that was a benefit of just having my thoughts very clear and having them be my own. Also able to just, again, feel, because I'm not running from anything. So like I was saying, healing conversations was one of my favorite chapters as well, because I was able to have some healing conversations with my mother, my father. And one thing that I would talk about was, I learned that just because you're ready to heal doesn't mean other people are.
That's a fact.
Man.
That is a fact.
And something else that I want to go back to is the clear mind thing, right? Because I think that there's this stigma when it comes to meditation that it's like, as soon as you start meditating, that's just instantly going to clear your mind. And you know what I think is important for people is you got to understand that you got to build yourself up to the point that you can even get into that state of that type of clarity. So can you break down for the listeners what it meant for you to have a clear mind, and how you even got yourself to that point?
Yeah, so I say kind of do what's best for you. So when I had first went into the meditation, I remember I took a bath and I wanted to meditate in the bath, and I had turned on some meditation music, and I just couldn't just concentrate. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna turn on one of my favorite songs, and it's Say Yes by Florida. And I turned it on. Actually, I played the piano version of it. And so I sat back, and when I say I had probably one of the best meditations of my life, and I felt so light and so freeing. And I think that was, what was the question again? So I can answer it.
So pretty much how did you get to the point where you were able to have that clarity, that clear mind? And that was perfect example, honestly, even how you broke down how with the music, you use actual music rather than, people think you gotta listen to like what's called meditation music, like
Yeah.
frequencies, beats,
Yeah,
drums, whatever the case may be, but they don't necessarily like understand that you can meditate to your favorite song because there's a lot of this music is therapy too. So, but just in terms of like having that clear mind, like how did you even build yourself up to the point where it's like, what it's called monkey brain, right? Where it's like you just got all these thoughts going on. How did you get to the point where you're able to allow them thoughts to kind of surpass so you can have that clarity?
I'll say this, shout out to Recovery Ray.
Hey.
I was intentional about my thoughts going in, and it made me more comfortable. So he always say, think about a moment that made you happy. And I thought about the moments that made me happy, and going through those moments made me just relax all the way out to where my mind was just clear after having those intentional thoughts. And so after that, it definitely took my mind at ease, and it was basically just being, instead of just thinking about myself as myself, the flesh or whoever I am in this world. I would just be. I would just sit there and just be, eyes closed, breathing in, breathing out, and just letting my mind settle. And because I'm not looking at social media, all these extra things that's on social media is not in my mind, just floating around.
Yeah. And when you, before, probably on the first couple days that you probably went into your hiatus, I know like when you go to meditate, you can have a lot of racing thoughts at first. How are you able to actually sit through those thoughts if they weren't the best thoughts? Because when you meditate, thoughts may arise that you don't necessarily want to attach yourself to. How did you go about letting those pass and actually staying in that uncomfortable space? Because that is an uncomfortable space when you first sit there. But how did you go through sitting through that uncomfortable space to just be able to let those thoughts pass?
Yeah, so I learned to just let them flow, and I feel as if you sit there long enough and you just let them come and go, as time go by, I feel like you'll be calm and just relax. People just need to relax, get in a calming position, rather it's laying down, rather it's in a tub, or however what's comfortable for everyone. Because again, everybody has a certain way that they think they're supposed to meditate.
Right.
And I feel like everyone should find their way of meditating.
Yeah. Now, what were some challenges or adversities that you faced throughout this hiatus? Because I know that there was probably times where it's like you wanted to revert back, to certain things and stuff like that. So, what did those challenges look like?
Yes, I think one of the challenges was a friend of mine told me that I had went viral during this hiatus. So I'm ready to jump back on there, share it, show everybody. That definitely was a challenge. And just sex was one thing as well, because it's like that's something that I would run away from as well and run towards that just to deal with my own emotions and things of that. But so just, I think me doing all at once, some people just take a hiatus from social media, and me doing it all at once didn't know how much it'd really play an effect on me. And it definitely, so I said, cleared my mind, put me in a whole different mindset and let me feel more, because I think we numb ourselves with all these different things, and so it let me feel every emotion, especially like one of my favorite chapters, the healing conversations, when it made me more comfortable with actually speaking the way I felt to my mother and my father, rather if it did hurt their feelings or not, because I feel like that's what helped me begin my journey of healing, speaking about how I feel. Yeah.
Right. And then even in terms of like the limited exposure to people, like, was it difficult to kind of come back to that? Like after you had left it so long, was spending that time within that solitude, like what was that transition like coming back into the world after the hiatus?
Yeah, the weird thing about it is, and I suggest everybody going to hiatus just for this, when you're not talking to nobody and see who reaches out to you, I think that was one of the most interesting things to me too, because I thought it was going to be certain people, but actually it was people that would just reach out and they would say, am I able to text you or talk? I'm like, yeah, of course. If you give it a great energy and vibe, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it definitely was different. Honestly, I didn't even want to come out of my hiatus because it was so peaceful, and it was like, I really want to go back to another one, but I'm doing so much now that I gotta wait. But yeah, definitely, I think that being away from so much energy, because you gotta think how much energy it takes to talk to people, especially when some people put their problems on you, and they never ask you how are you feeling today. And so I've learned that you got to be careful with just talking to people, because some people just load all their information on you, and they go about their business.
Right. And then, like with your relationship with self, what were some of the improvements you've seen in terms of that throughout, like just because of this hiatus?
I think learning to really, really appreciate where I'm at. That was one of the things, because during my hiatus, it was a lot of things that was going on that I wish that I was like, dang, it's bad. But then something worse happened. I'm like, dang, I was really at a good space if I'd appreciate where I was at.
Yeah.
Didn't know that it could be worse. And so I think appreciating where you are and understanding that it could be worse, but it could be better as well. I think that was one of the things. Yeah, I think that was one of the things as well.
And it's funny you say that, because when you say that, I think of, the abundance loop. And what most people don't know, in order to consistently create abundance into your life, you must always start with gratitude. And then from gratitude, that more or less leads to you being able to have that peace of mind.
Yeah,
and then from that peace of mind, that allows you to make wise choices, which ultimately lead to positive outcomes, going back around to gratitude. So, a lot of the times, like, we block ourselves from even the first step of being able to attract abundance into our life, because we're not even expressing gratitude for the things that are going on, both the good and the bad. It's so easy to express gratitude for the good things that happen into our lives. But it takes a different type of mindset to express gratitude for the bad. But when you think about it, it's the adversity, it's the challenges, it's all of those difficulties that truly allow us to be able to get to the point where we're at, So being able to express gratitude for that is what ultimately puts you at peace, because it's like, no matter what's going on in my life, I'm always going to be grateful, because I know that this is a part of my life past, and I know that this is something that I need to go through in order to become who I already am.
Yeah.
I got a question for both of you. If you're going into a hiatus in the future, what would you want to go into a hiatus for?
So it's funny you say that, because I've talked to Ben about this before. Like, I eventually want to get to a point where my lifestyle is a hiatus. I'm kind of living. I read Jay Shetty's book, and he has like the #1 health podcast in the world. But before that, he spent 3 years as a monk. And I was just reading about the lifestyle, like how they would spend the day within meditation and stuff like that, and it, allowing you to really get to the point where you can unlock those different percentages of your mind. I think they say on average 10-12% is what we unlock. But I want to be able to unlock that full capacity.
Yeah.
So that's where Omni comes from. Like, Omni Fitness comes from. It's first and foremost omnipresent. I want to be able to be in a hiatus and still be able to have impact, kind of hop on social media, post and go, educate, and just kind of build that stuff up. So then, me and baby girl go live on an island with our family, be in seclusion, because that ultimately, I'm a true...
That's peace to me.
Yeah, it's peace. Yeah, and I'm a true introvert at heart, that's how I would like to live my life. But I also know that I'm here for a God-given purpose, to be able to add value to the world and lift people up into the frequency of love, which is the God frequency. So for me, that hiatus is something that I want to go into, just to continue to be able to evolve, and go past this physical plane, because I think so many times we forget that, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience.
Yeah.
So the things that are going on in this world are so surface level. Like, it's so much bigger than we can even imagine, And I'm trying, I feel like going into hiatuses and stuff, that's how you get closer to God.
Yeah.
And I want to be as close to God as I possibly can be. So eventually, like I said, I see that as being my lifestyle.
Yeah.
What about you?
I see it as, I've always said, you can ask my mama, I always said, I want to live on an island. I am a big introvert. I have times where I have to take moments of solitude with myself. I even took a moment of solitude this weekend. Was it
Last
weekend?
Yep.
Last weekend, where I had to just go be off by myself, and I let him have his time. And in that moment, I wasn't out. I was just self-caring. I was cleaning. I was doing what I wanted to do, and it's just because it do make me get closer to myself. And anytime I go into that moment of seclusion, is so that I can get closer to myself, so that I can get closer to God, so that I can hear more, see what it is that I need to do. And doing that, I always come back able to handle the world around me better, because there's too much outside noise. At the end of the day, I don't think that we're supposed to live in a society that is as high paced as ours is. And then we are meant to be around a tribe, but you throw capitalism and high production and social media on top of everything, you're constantly getting things thrown at you, and it's overstimulating.
Yeah.
So overstimulation and just getting closer to myself and to God is what I crave and what I need to go in solitude for.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to go back to that you said earlier was the fact of why you started that hiatus, with it like kind of being in that mindset of grind. And I think that that's so important, because when we be in those modes of grind, we're not truly walking with God. We're trying to do everything ourselves, because truly less is more. God doesn't want you here like working yourself to death, because then that serves him no benefit, because he's walking through us here, so he needs us to be able to be at top-notch shape so we can be able to have that delivery. And that's something that I've just kind of recently been going through as well, because I'm a high achiever. I naturally just want to, execute. But I there was a point where I was literally doing so much that it was just becoming detrimental to just like all areas of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like putting out all these events and stuff like that. And when people see that, it's like, oh yeah, he doing his thing, he's cool. But it's like, you truly don't need to put out like that much. You know what I mean? You kind of need, it's more like simplistic, so I had to like literally, like I just canceled all, like recently last week, canceled all the events for this month. And I was like, I'm gonna focus on being a master, wellness coach. I'm gonna focus on being able to help people with their mindsets and stuff like that, the two pillars I need to focus on. And then, focus on growing the other pillars out of Omni with, collaborations, partnerships, stuff like that, realizing I don't have to do it all, but most importantly, putting it in God's hands and surrendering to God and ask God to show me how to be able to move in a certain way. So when these events do come back, for one, they're going to be a rarity. They're going to be very intentional, and it's going to be like more like seasonal things, because I have to be able to work within my capacity. And I also have to be knowing that I'm doing them for the proper intentions. And sometimes once we get in those states of going, doing, we truly get off of our plan. And we truly get off of the reasoning of why we're doing it. And they say the devil's in the details, and that's what you really got to watch out for, because that is a distraction. That's a form of the distraction. Just keep doing. Because then you ain't going to have no time for connection with source, for connection with self, and being able to go and reflect and analyze of what's going on, how am I feeling and stuff like that. And you're going to be operating on like a robot or a hamster on a hamster wheel, like you said.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of people do look at that and say, oh, he's doing his thing, but it's a lot of work and that's put behind the scenes, and it's no really true benefit to me just going, unless you're being very, very strategic. And like you said, making sure what the reason is to make it really happen.
Yeah. Once you take that moment to really do your seclusion, take the hiatus, you get closer to yourself. And anytime you get closer to yourself, you're getting closer to the source, whatever it is you want the source to be, the universe, God, whatever you call them. And anytime you get close to the source, you know that all you need to do is surrender all you need to do is surrender. And it's like going on a hiatus just push you closer and closer to surrendering so that you're able to really operate in the world around you, because the world around you, like, it ain't trying to surrender. Like,
Right.
at least the people around us. But doing things like hiatus, getting out in nature, coming back to yourself, praying, meditating,
Yeah.
it's all teaching you just how to surrender.
Definitely. I got to quote one of my good friends, Tyrus. He
Shout out to
said-
Tyrus.
Shout out.
Yeah,
Tyrus.
he said if you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person you see, then it's time to take yourself on a date.
Ooh, I likes that. I likes
I
that.
paraphrase that, but what he said is way doper. But yeah, I was like, that was fire.
Yeah.
I was fire because it's like, when you go on a date too, you get to know the person.
Yeah.
If you look in the mirror, you don't recognize the person. It's time to take yourself on a date,
Right.
and that really stuck with me. He always dropping gems. Shout out to that man.
Yeah, and that's crazy because Tyrus is literally he the man behind the camera,
Yeah.
man, and like he really does have wisdom beyond his age. Like I told Tyrus, I was like, he's an artist. Like that's what I see him as, because he has so many different gifts. And it's like, even when he speaks, you know, a lot of people, you know, they try to script their stuff like that. Like everything that he says is coming off the top of the dome.
That man is
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's beautiful. Yeah, naturally. You know what I mean? Stay tuned. Like, we definitely going to have him on here as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, one more question in terms of the hiatus that we want to ask you is, you know, how has your experience changed with your approach to the relationships that you have in your life? You know, whether that's the romantic, whether that's interpersonal, you know, I know you kind of mentioned family and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
how have the overall spectrum of your relationships altered?
I think I got more understanding, because I realized that, you know, people are hurt. Like, as far, because I really like the healing part of the book, and that was one thing I felt I learned in the hiatus the most, was the healing conversations. And so understanding that, you know, my mother was hurt by her parents, and nobody's perfect. You know, it's kind of like a domino effect. So, for instance, in my relationship with my mother, we don't say I love you much. And I used to be angry at that, like, oh, no, don't ever tell me she loved me. Why she never showed me love and affection? Well, she didn't get it from her father.
It's a
And
cycle.
her father didn't get it from, so it was like learning, understanding, and that was one of the things that really stuck with me in this hiatus is, you know, understanding why people are the way they are, and really looking at them, you know, from a different perspective. Because I was a person, man, I always point the finger, but
Yeah.
like putting myself in their shoes and understanding how they feel, and understanding that they went through things too, and they're healing and their own healing journey as well. That was one of the most things I think people underestimate all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of people are on their own healing journey,
Right.
Yeah.
and you know, fighting them demons and they got to look at their own demons.
Right.
So that was one of the
That was
things.
beautiful.
Were there some relationships that ended because of that? Because I know you mentioned, like, you know, certain people, you know, you got to pay attention to who reaches out and stuff like that. What did that look like?
I wouldn't say ended. Well, yeah, I guess they did end. I feel like you got to protect your energy, protect your peace. So
Absolutely.
everybody shouldn't have access to you.
Yeah.
Like, and there's people that, you know, will talk to you again and they just want to give all their problems to you. Don't even ask you, how are you today?
Right.
Like, I always say, call people with good news. Like, I love when people call me with good news. You know, so yeah, it definitely was some relationships that are no longer there anymore. Based off of, it's just one word that I learned. If y'all ever heard of it, it's I don't know how to say it, but it's called reciprocity. You know what I mean?
Reciprocity.
Yeah, that's a new word that I've learned. And it's like, the people that you deal with, you know, if you're giving out that love, then they should be able to give the love back.
Yeah.
And so it definitely was relationships that ended.
And then even with the, like kind of going over to romance a little bit, you know, you were essentially fasting from sexual intercourse and stuff like that. So how did that shift things for you?
I think as just a young man doing that, it'll just change your whole mindset, because fasting from sex, it's a lot of benefits. And one of the benefits is your thoughts do be clear. They say, my voice didn't get deeper, but they say your voice get deeper and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think fasting from sex just make your thoughts more clear, make you talk to women different. You know, you're more intentional about the relationship rather than just thinking on what that is. So the conversations be different as well because your intentions is just different. You're not thinking about the end goal or what it is you want from the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So would you
think?
go ahead, man.
Would you say it's still like that right now since you're out of the hiatus?
It is, but social media is a horrible place. And that algorithm, I always want to throw that in there. Yeah, the algorithm.
They give you more of what you be looking at.
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
It's like I
But
plead
yeah,
the fifth.
nah, definitely. But nah, I think it's still beneficial, and that's why I say I think always going back to hiatus is not as long as I took, because I took a whole month, but I think a week of hiatus, just spending time with yourself, is beneficial. And yeah, I do think it was beneficial for me even now, because I just be chilling.
Yeah.
I just be chilling. I just, kind of stay to myself, and if I am talking to a young woman, then my intention is not sex. And it's funny because a lot of young women in our generation, that's the first thing they want to know. What's your intentions? And I think that's good for them to ask. But a lot of the young women think that that's what a lot of guys' intentions are. So I don't even speak about, sex or any of that.
Yeah.
And you read the book, what is it called? Nipsey Hussle.
Way to Superior Man.
Way of the Superior Man. And it was talking about exchanging that's what I did during the hiatus. Like, instead of, I put my energy towards other things like cooking, and they say that you can like transfer that sex energy that you feel and put it into your creative spaces and put it into other energies.
So you were practicing like the semen retention and all that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That was one of the biggest things as well to me, because again, as young black men, we've learned early in years all that other stuff, and that ain't really. I think semen retention is a great thing as well.
Yeah, because it truly gives you power, and the Way of the Superior Man is one book throughout this season that I've mentioned on several occasions, just because like it's so important for us to remember that sex is an acronym, and it stands for Sacred Energy Exchange. So when you're having sexual intercourse with individuals, like you're exchanging energies, and if they might have something going on, that's you gotta pick up on that. But also, with the semen and with ejaculation, and that's why porn is one of the #1 industries in this world, because it weakens our power as men. It takes away life force energy from us. You know what I mean? And like you said, like when we do practice that semen retention, it truly allows us to transmute that energy and use that as power, you know what I mean, and be able to place it in other areas in your life. And I mean, honestly, like it physically boosts us up as well, because it allows us to, be able to retain our testosterone levels and stuff like that. But it is important to be able to have different like outputs where you know how to intentionally direct that energy, because testosterone can turn into anger real quick, you know what I mean? So that was something that I had to, balance, because I'm a firm believer in practicing, semen retention. Like I was somebody who, used to watch porn and stuff like that. Like I was in the trap just like everybody else. And that was something that I completely got away from. Like, I don't watch porn anymore. Like I don't, self-please myself. Like I don't do any of that because it's a discipline. You know what I mean? So it's a discipline, but it also gives us power. You know what I mean? And it also allows us to be able to move differently with women, like you said, and that's so important, man.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yep. Now, wrapping it up, what is one piece of advice, or it could be multiple things, that you would leave our listeners with today in terms of like, taking a hiatus, at least looking into it, what's one piece of advice or that you would leave for them in that note?
I would say be very intentional. Be very, very, very intentional. And also do it for yourself. That was one thing. I was telling people I'm going to my house, oh, you're not going to last. It don't matter if I chose to do the hiatus for 2 days, 3 days. It's for me. It wasn't for you.
Right.
So be intentional and really do it for you. Don't matter what everybody else say. You don't have to tell everybody like I did. You could just go on your hiatus.
Right.
But yeah, be very intentional. And I say you're just going to love it. It's gonna transform you. Your eyes is gonna open. You're gonna see who really care and love about you from who hit you up during your hiatus. You're gonna learn things about yourself that might scare you, but it's gonna help you grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I just say be very intentional. And you know, I just want to add this on this too. On one of my quotes I like to say is win in real life. Don't get caught up on social media. You know, that's just a small piece of, you know, thing that everybody shows on social media. And a lot of people do show their W's. I show more W's than I show L's on social media. And so just don't get caught up on social media and really win in real life. Like, really hear that for what it is.
Yeah. And speaking of social media, how can our audience and listeners find you? You know, what's some of them handles?
Okay, yeah, so my Instagram handle is _IamDemond, IAMDEMOND. You can find me on Facebook at Demond Hicks. You can find my podcast, Over the Top Podcast, OVERTHA. So it's Over the Top, THA instead of THE, podcast. Yep, and also you can find my book, Keys to Elevate, on Amazon, Demond Hicks. Everything will pop up. My podcast, other books, everything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And what's some other stuff that they should be excited for, looking and coming in the future from you?
Yeah, so I got a new book that I've created. It might be out by the time y'all hear it. It might not, but it's called The Mindset Shift. And this is a game changer. This is something that you're really going to want to get. It's about affirmations. I teach my daughters affirmations, and I've been teaching them it for about 4 years. And so the book that I've created is for adults, and also I'm creating a children's book as well for affirmations. It's really all already done. But yeah, that's something that they can find. Also the events that I hold, defeating procrastination events, networking events, and these are spaces to where they're intimate and self-development spaces, motivational spaces, to where you can get motivated, inspired, and talk to people that's doing what you want to do. It's hard to get in those rooms and talk to people that's doing what you're doing, because a lot of people just can't reach them. A lot of people feel uncomfortable going up to people, but these spaces, it's how I melt Ryan, just being in those spaces, intimate spaces. So, yep, find those as well.
Bet. Well, we definitely appreciate you popping on here today, brother. We are excited for what's to come for the future, both with yourself and, you know, even in terms of, you know, different collaborations and stuff like that we probably have going on and all that good stuff. But that's all we got for y'all today. It's a wrap. See you next time.
See ya.